Brent Wallace of Coming in Hot with Bobby Ryan and Jason York. They're fired up for a new season in Ottawa, and there's a lot for us to get through today, Wally, but I want to start at the top. Michael Andlauer puts his first kind of stamp on this Senators team and hires his pal Steve Staios to be the new president of hockey operations. Your thoughts on this decision, and do you think Staios is the right guy to kind of lead this Senators team out of the rebuild?
Hey, boys. Good afternoon. I do like it. I mean, Steve Staios is highly regarded across the NHL circles as a very smart hockey guy. I've known him for a bit back when he played. My co-host Jason York knows him really well, speaks very highly of him. It seems like it's a very good move. And not to forget, just above him is Cyril Leader, who's coming back into the organization as well. These are two huge moves by Michael Andlauer early on. This will really set the tone going forward for this organization. Now, they haven't had a director of hockey operations. They haven't had any oversight in this entire organization for like 6 years. This really helps solidify that and really gives Pierre Dorion another sounding board, some more maybe a safety net, if you will, or maybe Steve Staios is going to come in and surround himself with the people he knows best. So we'll wait to see how that plays out, but it's definitely great for this organization to finally get more people in the hockey ops department.
Yeah, I was actually just going to piggyback off of that, Wally, and ask you about really kind of the pressure that not just DJ Smith and this team are facing to get off to a hot start, but also considering that Michael Andlauer and now Steve Staios are going to be in evaluation mode to understand how everyone works. Is there heat on? Is the temperature turned up a little bit? Is the hot seat on for Pierre Dorion and DJ Smith to finally have this be the year where things turn around? Every indication to this point is that Michael Andlauer is ready to be patient and is ready to move forward with these guys currently in their roles. But what are these guys looking at?
It's interesting, Frank, because normally patient is fine. Everybody's like, yeah, okay, come on in, check it out, get comfortable, figure out what you're going to hang on the wall. This team has started horribly for 4 straight years. And so by, what do we call it, the American Thanksgiving, they're already out of the playoffs for the most part. Last year, they missed by 6 points. Each of the last 4 years, they've been 28th or worst after 20 games into the season. They don't have that luxury. So that's an issue for them. If they don't get off to a better start, do we start to see changes a lot sooner than perhaps we normally would? That's where Shane Pinto comes into all this. And I know you spoke about him earlier in the show, and I'll lead into it if you don't mind, is they need Shane Pinto in this lineup. They need to have a very good start early on. Josh Norris hasn't played yet. He's coming off shoulder surgery. Shane Pinto continues to be an RFA, not signed. They need to go 1, 2, 3 down the middle with Tim Stützle as their number one center. If this team hopes to have success, they've got to have all those guys going in the lineup.
So I know a few teams have called the Sens about Shane Pinto, but the response has continually been, we're not trading this guy. We want to keep him. Why do you think there's been a disconnect to this point, now knowing that the regular season is 10 days away, from moving out other contracts or other pieces in order to prioritize Shane Pinto and getting this deal done? What's going on? What's the holdup?
So I can tell in your question, you don't really know what to say because none of us have been able to figure out exactly what the hell is going on. We knew this for months. We knew this contract was coming up, but yet, and if you read Ian Mendez's article in The Athletic today, he tells you, listen, they prioritize Zach McEwen and Travis Hamonic and Eric Brandstrom and signing all these players to contracts. Vladimir Tarasenko, they brought in Dominik Kubalik, all these guys, and yet Shane Pinto just sat there. Shane Pinto's a 20-goal scorer who filled in for Josh Norris, who went out with an injury. So he knows how to play second-line center minutes. He's extremely good defensively. He's smart. He's young. It's all that stuff. I don't know how they got to this point. Frank, I can't fathom how we've got here now 10 days away from the season when they should have made a deal to get him signed. They should have already traded the players away because now, in order to move those assets, you're going to have to sweeten the deal. And people are now saying, yeah, you know what? You want to give us Matthew Joseph or someone else? We also want a first-round pick. That's tough to swallow.
Yeah, I mean, Matthew Joseph has 3 years left at almost $3 million. That's not the easiest guy on your roster to move. But in it connected to all of that, so I don't want to analyze or put too much emphasis on this, but you end up losing another player on your organization that you've helped develop the last few years in first-round pick Lassie Thompson. And I'm not sure what Thompson quite is yet. I think the answer is we don't know. And
that's the problem.
Ducks have the space and availability to figure it out. So good on them for stepping in. But because you've prioritized some of these other guys, because you've brought back Travis Hamonic, because you signed Branson to a bigger deal, like you don't have the room for Thompson. What's been the reaction to that in the Ottawa market, losing a first-round pick that you've spent all this time trying to develop?
Great question. It's interesting, Lassie Thompson, because nobody really knows what he is, and yet he's already being passed over. And now Tyler Cleven's here, and he is going to pass over Lassie Thompson. So he just kept getting pushed down the depth chart. Should they have lost him for nothing? No. Like, everybody knew he needed to clear waivers to go down to the minors. Chances are he wasn't going to slip through. Again, why wasn't there some kind of deal made? But maybe there just was no market for him. I have a tough time thinking that, but maybe there just wasn't a market. But there was no way I can fathom that Lassie Thompson would get through waivers and be playing the year in the minors for Belleville. But again, people question asset management in Ottawa, and that's that one, Lassie Thompson, and the Shane Pinto contract negotiations are two very glaring issues right now with the Ottawa Senators.
It's going to be fascinating right from the jump in Ottawa this year. If you're watching the show and you go, man, I want to stay up to date on the Ottawa Senators, the link to the Coming In Hot YouTube is in the description of today's episode. Thanks for doing this, Wally. Always a pleasure catching up with you.
Anytime, boys. See you soon.